What is up, everybody? You are checking out the Uncensored Pro Wrestling Podcast, what the world is listening to. I'm your host, the Hot Commodity and C, and joined today by my partner in crime and my lover. Introduce yourself to the people.
Aunt B.
And we are covering WWE Friday Night SmackDown from December 8th, 2023. It was the 20th Tribute to the Troops episode. And I remember being little when the first one came on in 2003. I was maybe like, God, like 10, yeah. And I always was nervous because I thought that them being in Iraq, that something might happen. It was so close to September 11th. But John Bradshaw Layfield helped pull this thing together, and they have been doing it now for 20 years.
Chucking Hot Bradshaw?
Yep, JBL.
Usually.
That's all right. Hopefully, you're not bored by me already.
It's a lack of oxygen. That's what yawning is. It's not a sign you're tired. It's a lack of oxygen.
Oh,
No, really.
no, I know. Well, I hope that your oxygen comes back at full level. You're okay.
It will.
Good. So we start out, we get a national anthem to open the show. They're live in Providence, Rhode Island. And with this show, you're not going to get a lot of craziness because it is a tribute to the troops episode, but we did get a very good promo from CM Punk that we'll talk about later. But to start the night, we have the tournament for the U.S. Championship. We're seeing Dragon Lee take on Santos Escobar. And before the match, the NXT North American Champion Dominic Mysterio comes out. He's taking on Dragon Lee at Deadline. And this is a quick match. Not a lot happened here. Santos got the win after a Phantom Driver and a 3 count after Dominic stands over Dragon Lee and spits on him. So you're not a fan of Escobar winning this match.
No.
What are your thoughts on Escobar? You don't like him?
No, he's cool, but he's heel right now. And I don't like what he did to Ray.
He attacked Ray. Ray's on crutches.
Not cool.
I do think that out of those two guys, Santos should have been the one to win because although Dragon Lee is really good, I do think that he's not that he's lacking, but I think he can.
He is our North American champion.
Well,
now.
yeah. Well, spoiler alert to people who haven't seen Deadline yet, but I mean, at this point, we're all past it. But yes, that match we'll cover when we get to Deadline. I'm a Santos Escobar fan, so I'm glad he won. Moving on, we see Randy Orton confronting Nick Aldis backstage. Randy doesn't know LA Knight, and Nick tells him he and LA both want the bloodline. That's all he needs to know. And then Aldis said that he paid more than the fine was after Orton had RKO'd him last week. And Randy says that's for next time. I'm glad to see Orton back, and it looks like Nick Aldis might eventually step into the ring down the line. He's a former NWA and Impact champion, so I could see him tussle a little bit. But good to see Orton.
Yeah, I love this tool kick that Orton's on off. He looks so great. He's ripped. He is mad, and he's out for blood.
For the bloodline's blood.
Not just any blood, the bloodline.
So Cody Rhodes comes out next, and he says, tonight is a special night. He shows us a video of the history of the tribute to the troops. Thank you for your service. Please welcome the U.S. Army drill team. And then the drill team that proceeds to do a little, choreography with the guns. We then have Brad Nessler calling this next match. It's another number one contenders U.S. tournament match. Karrion Kross with Scarlett taking on Bobby Lashley. Another quick match. Bobby got the win after a suplex and a spear. Bobby Lashley's on our tier here, but I am a big fan of Karrion Kross. I'm surprised that they had him lose. It's been a good way for Kross to get back.
Well, Bobby Lashley is a troop, so he had to win,
He's a veteran, yeah.
I like Bobby Lashley, too. He's a cool guy. I don't really like the kick he's on, but he's cool.
The kick. I love how you say the kick when it comes to their storylines. Yeah. I felt like Karrion Kross could have done more with this win though, but we'll see more of him coming out. Damage Control is backstage. Bailey apologizes for last week costing Kyrie the match. She says, I volunteer to stay backstage tonight. And Dakota Kai says, that's a good idea. We're going to be at ringside for Asuka. It's cool. So
I didn't get that. I didn't get what the purpose of her volunteering to stay back was. It was almost like she was like punishing herself.
Well, because she screwed up last week. She cost Kyrie the match by
I
getting
know, but it
involved.
just doesn't make sense for her to be like, "Oh, I'm going to stay back."
Well,
Like, I
because
just didn't get it.
you could tell, like, she can sense that they don't want her in the group. So she kind of feels like, all right, let me.
Okay, okay, I got you there.
Um,
Bailey about to get screwed.
There is. CM Punk comes out next and he says, I'm not going to get my time cut tonight. The question is, where am I going to sign? I'll leave that up to you guys. Do you want me to toss out 29 other men in main event WrestleMania? Obviously, they go, yeah. He goes, an old friend that welcomed me back famously says, what do you want to talk about? A few people are upset. They don't like the CM Punk that says, I'm glad to be back home. Allow me time to be spicy then. He says, this is me putting my feet on the couch. Who do you want me to talk about? Do you want me to talk about someone who's never here? Roman Reigns, the tribal chief. He goes, I acknowledge you. Don't forget who the OG Paul Heyman guy was. He was my wise man first. His cousins are here. Maybe I can work with Kevin Owens. But Kevin Owens likes to punch people in the face backstage, and that's something you can't do. It's 2023. We'll talk about that.
He also first says about Cody Rhodes, he goes, I could tell you some stories about him. Like he was about to say something negative about him.
True. He goes, I'm not gonna put stock. Everyone's happy except for one guy, and I'm not gonna put stock in what he says because he's not even the man in his own household. On Monday night, I will make my decision. And at the same place I walked out of 10 years ago, I'm back to finish where I started, to finish my story and main event WrestleMania. So there's lots to break down here. So he, like you said, he mentions Cody Rhodes. He's going to share something maybe that was negative, but he ends up moving on to talk about Roman Reigns. He mentions that he was the first Paul Heyman guy.
Yeah.
He then goes
on. Goes after my man Seth.
So
he better watch his mouth.
Who do you think he's gonna go after? Seth. You think he's gonna go after?
Yeah, because look.
And do you like that he's back? I know you didn't see much of his career, but are you excited that he's back? There's been a lot of talk about it.
Yeah, I mean it's cool to see him back and see what's gonna happen. I'm not like a huge fan of him, but it's gonna stir things up for sure.
Yeah, definitely already. We have our next match, Asuka with Damage Control without Bailey taking on Charlotte Flair next. Before the match can happen, Zelina Vega, Mia Yim, Shotzi, and Bianca Belair attack Damage Control, so it's just one-on-one.
I'm excited about this because I've never seen Bailey anything but like in Damage Control and a heel, so I'm like excited to see her maybe turn face and do something like step up. Like Bailey's just been kind of in the backdrop for the last year.
And you just started watching it again this year, so you didn't get to really see her as the hugger character,
right?
And all of that.
Yeah.
So this is a good match. However, Charlotte Flair injures herself during this match. She injures her leg. She hits a moonsault to the floor, but she kind of botches it. She applies a figure four, but then Bailey gets on the apron. Charlotte punches her, and with that distraction, Asuka is able to roll up Bailey and get the win. After the match, Bailey says, I did that, and she's happy with herself. Do you think Damage Control is going to be happy that Bailey got involved? I mean, she helped Asuka win, but they didn't want her out there.
Yeah, no, she's going to get screwed for it.
Poor Bailey. I like Bailey.
Maybe not for this, but it's coming. It's coming.
Well, speaking of what's coming up, Cody Rhodes and CM Punk meet each other backstage. And Cody says, for you to finish your story, you need to win the Royal Rumble. That's interesting. We know that Cody Rhodes is going to be in the Royal Rumble.
It's gonna cut, yeah. It could come down to Cody and him.
If it comes down, okay, so here's my theory. I think at Mania, you're going to get Punk and Rhodes in the main event for both nights. But who do you think would win the Rumble between the two?
Mhm.
I think they're both going to main event, but one of them has to win the Rumble, unless they
I
both.
think Punk is going to win the Rumble
Huh?
because Cody won last year.
What if they
Also,
do a double where they both go over the top rope?
something like that could happen. I'm also curious to see if they might bring somebody. It could be a complete surprise who wins the Royal Rumble. It could be. I keep counting on Brock Lesnar coming back. Could Randy Orton be in the Rumble? Uh, it could be another surprise. People are forgetting this week about the megastar.
LA Knight.
LA Knight could is still in the game too. There's a
Mhm.
lot of people up for those titles right now, and there's a lot of different ways they could go. So there's a lot of big players right now. It's a good time,
It is a good time for a good time. Well, I mean,
and I think there's going to be some title switch ups. I don't think we're going to be seeing these year title reigns. I think there's going to be a lot of switch ups because there's so many guys right now.
we will see. Our main event: Randy Orton, LA Knight taking on Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. This was an obvious match. I mean, you can't have these two guys, Orton and LA Knight, lose. We see Orton back suplex Jimmy Uso onto a table. LA goes for a BFT on Jimmy Uso, but Randy Orton ends up hitting an RKO instead and gets a 3 count. It looked as if like LA Knight wasn't mad, but
What does
Randy Orton
BFT stand
stealing
for?
blunt
Blunt
force
force trauma.
trauma.
That's right. I always forget.
Or Knight didn't look upset, but Orton definitely stole his thunder, and they made a point to do that. So, do you think LA Knight and Randy Orton might end up, going at it?
I kind of hope not, because Randy deserves better than that.
Okay. Well, what was your favorite part of this episode of SmackDown?
Um, I like the Punk thing. And just having Randy Orton back is really cool and seeing him in action. And it was a cool fight, like having two big baby faces like LA Knight, and it was like a good feel good moment where they won and
Mm-hmm.
you could just be happy and cheer.
I agree.
And it was good to see the fucking bloodline lose once in a while.
I like seeing CM Punk because I didn't like his promo on Raw, so I like what he did here, and I'm excited to see more of his damage control and Asuka. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, damage control and Bailey stuff play out. But with that being said, it was a good episode of
Yeah, I'm
SmackDown.
excited for SmackDown this week a little more than Raw right now, I think.
Well, we're gonna cover NXT Deadline. We got Raw next week's episode of SmackDown. We got the NXT recap coming your way. A lot of stuff happening. We just covered WrestleMania 15. You can check that out in the archives. We're on the Ash Year season 2 on the road to Backlash in your house. So a lot of exciting stuff coming your way. With that, stay safe and stay uncensored.